Singapore stands for inclusiveness. This principle has led us to years of economic prosperity and social stability. In the fast pace of today's society, certain groups have been left in the dust. One of these groups is the mentally disabled population in Singapore, who clearly have been suffering in silence in the aggressively profit-oriented industries and corporations of today. A study on mental disorders in Singapore revealed a high unemployment rate of the mentally disabled population in Singapore. The figure quoted was about 70%. Even for the 30% who have a job, more than half of them have wages of less than $1,700 a month. It is clear they are being treated differently.
The situation is grim. We feel that there remains a stigma attached to the mentally disabled here, leading to the discrimination of them by employers. They are either seen as incapable and therefore denied employment, or they are given positions of the lowest tier and subject to the lowest wages. The mindset of these employers has not changed. They see them as incapable, economic liabilities whose productivity levels are inferior to that of normal, healthy people.
Indeed, a normal citizen published an article in an editorial column to raise this issue. Employers don't understand aspects of mental illnesses and there exists a stigma to it, said Miss Enoch, who is in her mid-40s and an active volunteer.
Do you think mentally disabled people are being employed fairly?
Not really.
Why?
Because, for example, if you're an employer, right, and I'm like physically or mentally disabled, way higher me, right? Because you'll kind of like judge, and you'll think that I couldn't handle your work properly, right? So yeah.
Some people might think that like this mentally disabled people, like they cannot think properly, so when they do things also they might do short-handedly compared to a normal. But also sometimes normal people can also do like mentally disabled work. So like
I think the employers, they don't know what the mentally disabled people they are feeling. Like they don't know how to stand in their shoes and like experience what they are feeling.
Because they are mentally disabled, so they are like really different in the mental state. So I think people would have bad impressions on.
Will you see it as like something like stigma?
It's a stereotype, yeah.
People are aware, but stigma actually makes them hold back and not seek help until it's very severe. Actually, there are two groups of mental health disorders. One group is much more common but less severe, and then it proceeds to the more severe but less common conditions like schizophrenia, for example, where it's highly stigmatizing and people tend to seek help late.
It's not so much the employer; it's also the mentally disabled themselves. Can they avail themselves more skills, more training, so not upgrading themselves? But I think there is a limitation because they are limited by this mental handicap. So I think both ways are the employer and employee.
My brother is actually mentally disabled. He's currently in this organization called the Autism Resource Center. So basically what the Autism Resource Center does is it aims to train these mentally disabled and autistic people such that they can actually provide for themselves next time. My brother has actually tried it out for quite a few months, but after a while, somehow his contract will get terminated. To me, it's actually a form of like discrimination.
Despite the good intentions of the government to release policies to encourage fairer employment practices, it is clear from our interviews and research that little has improved. Our hypothesis that employers and the general public have a negative perception of mentally disabled people has been proven correct. This has caused many employers to treat mentally disabled people differently from normal people, such as offering them jobs of the lowest tier or even entirely rejecting their application for a job. This unfair and unjust treatment of the mentally disabled people only shows that the false perception of mentally disabled people is causing many of the more capable mentally disabled to be deprived of opportunities.
Despite the strong evidence that mentally disabled people are facing unfair treatment, our government has still not chosen to go down the legislative route. Instead, setting up the Tripartite Alliance for Fair Employment Practices, an alliance between employers, unions and the government to promote fair employment practices that should be adopted by employers to prevent the discrimination in the workplace. Clearly, we need more enforcement and legislation to ensure that fair practices are extended to the mentally disabled. Due to the lack of such measures, many mentally disabled people are facing difficulties. Besides the problem of even finding employment, there are those who meet other hardships, such as prejudice, leading to many capable people forced to take on lower-tier jobs. With more than half of the mentally disabled people earning pennies, how can they expect to survive in our high-cost, fast-paced society? It is clear that we need more policies and measures to enforce the fair and just treatment of the mentally disabled in the workplace.
Can we customize job in such a way at a lower level, reduce our demands performance demand on the mentally disabled so they can do it?
Seeking of treatment for mental illness has always been a stigma. And I think education is one way to reduce stigma, but the other way I think is to help people to be more sensitive about using words that are stigmatizing.
These disabled people are just like any one of us, capable of expressing their emotions, performing many roles just like how we can, and hence they should be treated just like how a normal person would be treated. Only when we have integrated these people can we truly call ourselves one people, one society, and one nation.